I never thought I'd be that mother-in-law, the one who ends up in some dramatic story. But here I am. My name's Linda, I'm 62, and I've always believed that kindness and respect go both ways. I raised my son, Mark, to be polite, hardworking, and loving. When he married his wife, Sarah, 3 years ago, I was genuinely happy. She seemed smart, confident, and friendly. I welcomed her into our family with open arms, or so I thought. From the start, I tried to make her feel comfortable. I offered to help decorate their new home, gave them furniture from my own house, and even paid for part of their honeymoon as a wedding gift. I thought we had a nice bond. But over time, something changed. The sweet girl I once adored started treating me like an inconvenience, like I was some outdated piece of furniture she had to tolerate because I came with the family. It all came to a head during a family dinner a few weeks ago. I had spent the entire afternoon cooking, roast beef, mashed potatoes, and Sarah's favorite lemon pie. Everyone was chatting, laughing, and for a moment, it felt like old times. Then, out of nowhere, Sarah said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You know, Linda, you really don't have to come over so often. We're adults now, we can manage without your supervision." The table went silent. My heart dropped. Mark looked mortified, but he didn't say a word. I managed a polite smile and excused myself to the kitchen. My hands were trembling as I washed the dishes, pretending not to care. But inside, I was fuming, not just hurt, but deeply disappointed. After everything I had done for them, that's how she chose to speak to me. That night, I went home and sat quietly in my living room. The same furniture I had given them stared back at me, the dining set, the antique lamp, even the new washer and dryer I'd helped buy. And that's when something inside me shifted. I decided I wasn't going to be treated like a fool anymore. So the next morning, I texted Sarah 3 words that would change everything. "Good luck, dear." She had no idea what was coming next. After sending that text, "Good luck, dear," I didn't say another word. No explanation, no follow-up, nothing. I just sat back and waited. I knew she'd read it and brush it off, thinking I was being passive-aggressive or dramatic. That was fine with me. I wasn't looking for a reaction. I was planning my next move. The following week, I acted completely normal. I didn't call, didn't visit, didn't even text Mark. Usually, I'd drop by to bring them groceries or watch their dog while they were at work. Not this time. I stayed quiet. I knew that silence speaks louder than any argument. Meanwhile, I started making a list, a long one. Every single thing I had bought or given them since their wedding. The living room set, I'd paid for the entire thing. The washer and dryer, I ordered them myself. The dining table and chairs, a family heirloom from my grandmother. The bedroom set, Mark had picked it out, but I'd footed the bill. The down payment on their car, a gift, I was suddenly regretting. The more I wrote, the angrier I became. It wasn't about the money, I wasn't struggling. It was about respect. I had been generous out of love, but now that generosity was being mistaken for weakness. A few days later, Mark called me. His voice sounded cautious. "Mom, are you okay? Sarah said you've been quiet." "I'm fine," I said calmly. "Just giving you two some space. Sarah made it clear you can manage on your own." There was silence on the other end. Then he said, "She didn't mean it that way." "Maybe," I replied. "But words have a way of revealing what people truly think." He sighed but didn't argue. He knew better. That evening, I opened my storage shed in the backyard and looked around. It was half empty now, because so much of what used to be mine was sitting in their house. That's when the idea really settled in my mind. If Sarah wanted to be independent so badly, then she could have independence, real, honest, unfiltered independence. The kind where you start from scratch. I smiled to myself, closed the shed door, and whispered, "Good luck, dear. You're going to need it." Once the decision was made, I slept better than I had in weeks. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. I wasn't doing this out of spite. I was simply reclaiming what was mine, and if that ended up teaching Sarah a lesson in humility, well, that was just a bonus. The next morning, I called a moving company I'd used before. "Hi, this is Linda Peterson," I said cheerfully. "I need a few of my items picked up from my son's house. Furniture, mostly. Can you send a team this Saturday morning?" The man on the phone asked for the address and details, and I gave it to him without hesitation. I told him exactly what pieces were mine and to expect me there to supervise. Don't worry, I added with a smile in my voice, everything belongs to me. Then I called Mark. Hey, honey, I said casually, I'll be stopping by Saturday morning to grab a few of my things. Just wanted to give you a heads up. He hesitated. Sure, Mom. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I said. Just doing some rearranging. I didn't mention the movers. That part was a surprise. Saturday came bright and early. I arrived right at 8 a.m., coffee in hand, movers right behind me. When Sarah opened the door, her face dropped. She was in her pajamas, holding a mug of tea, clearly caught off guard. Linda, what's going on? She asked, blinking in confusion as the movers started unloading dollies and blankets. Morning, sweetheart, I said, stepping inside with a calm smile. I'm just here to take back a few things that belong to me. The dining set, the living room furniture, and that washer and dryer I bought for you too. Her jaw dropped. You're taking them back. I nodded. You said you could manage on your own, remember? I'm just helping you stay true to your word. Mark came rushing in from the bedroom, still buttoning his shirt. Mom, come on, this isn't necessary. Oh, I think it is, I interrupted softly. Don't worry, I'll leave the house clean. I just don't want to leave my things where they're not appreciated. Sarah was speechless. The movers began unscrewing the dining table and wrapping up the couch cushions while I sipped my coffee and watched quietly. Every scrape of a chair leg, every box being taped shut, it all felt strangely satisfying. Not because I wanted to hurt anyone, but because I was finally standing up for myself. When the last piece was loaded onto the truck, I turned to Sarah, who stood there fuming but too stunned to speak. Good luck, dear, I said one more time, this time with a knowing smile. I'm sure you'll figure things out. Then I got in my car and drove away, leaving behind one very quiet house and two people who had just learned what independence really looks like. By Sunday morning, the storm had officially hit. My phone buzzed non-stop, missed calls, texts, even a few voice messages. All from Mark. I ignored them at first. I wasn't ready to hear the panic or guilt in his voice. I wanted him, and especially Sarah, to sit with what happened. Finally, around noon, he showed up at my house. He didn't even knock, just walked straight in, looking exasperated. Mom, he started, you can't just take everything like that. I calmly set down my cup of tea. Actually, I can. Everything I took, I paid for. You two wanted to be independent, right? Consider this, a new beginning. He rubbed his forehead. Sarah's furious. She said you embarrassed her in front of the neighbors. The movers. I cut him off gently. Sweetheart, embarrassment isn't the same as humility. If she's embarrassed, that's her conscience talking. He didn't respond. I could see the conflict in his eyes, torn between loyalty to his wife and understanding where I was coming from. After a moment, he sighed and said quietly, you really hurt her feelings. That one made me raise an eyebrow. Her feelings. After all the times she'd dismissed me, mocked my cooking, rolled her eyes when I tried to help. I leaned forward slightly and said, funny how people only start feeling hurt when the consequences come knocking. Mark didn't have an answer. He just sat there, quiet and tired. I softened my tone a little. Listen, honey, I love you both. But I won't let anyone, not even your wife, treat me like I'm some doormat. Respect goes both ways. He nodded slowly. I get that, Mom, but maybe you went too far. I smiled faintly. Maybe. But sometimes you have to go too far for people to finally see the line. Later that evening, I got a text from Sarah. Short, sharp, and clearly written through gritted teeth. Greater than, I hope you're happy, Linda. We had to sit on the floor to eat dinner. Thanks for humiliating us. I typed back. Greater than, you're welcome, dear. I'm glad you're finally getting a taste of independence. Good luck. I didn't hear from her after that. But word travels fast in families. By midweek, my sister called to tell me Sarah had been venting online, posting vague little, some people need to learn boundaries, quotes on Facebook. Typical. I just laughed. Let her vent. Let her play the victim. Because deep down, she knew exactly why this happened, and she knew I wasn't bluffing anymore. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. A week passed before I heard anything else. Honestly, I was enjoying the peace. My house felt cozy again with all my things back where they belonged, the dining set shining under the chandelier, the sofa that still smelled faintly of their dog, and that antique lamp casting its warm light in the corner. Every item told a story, and now, they were finally home. Then, one evening, just as I was settling in with a cup of chamomile tea and my favorite show, there was a knock at the door. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. It was Sarah. She stood on my porch, looking completely different from her usual confident self. Her hair was tied back messily, her eyes puffy, and her tone, surprisingly soft. "Hi, Linda," she said quietly. I didn't say a word at first. I just stepped aside and gestured for her to come in. She hesitated, then walked in slowly, her hands twisting together nervously. "Mark's at work," she started, "but I needed to talk to you." I raised an eyebrow. "All right, I'm listening." She looked down at the floor. I shouldn't have said what I said at dinner. It was rude. I was stressed that week, and I took it out on you. It wasn't fair. I studied her face carefully. It didn't sound rehearsed. For the first time since the wedding, she actually looked genuine. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied calmly. "But I have to ask, do you mean it? Or are you just upset because your dining chairs are gone?" She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "A little of both, maybe," she admitted. "It's been rough. We didn't realize how much you'd done for us until it was gone. We thought we could handle everything ourselves, but we were wrong." For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. I remembered being young and proud once too, wanting to prove I didn't need anyone's help. But I had never disrespected the people who tried to support me. "Sarah," I said gently, "I never wanted to control you or Mark. I just wanted to feel like part of your life. But when you talked to me the way you did, it made me feel like a burden, like I wasn't welcome." Her eyes filled with tears. "I know," she whispered. "And I'm sorry. Truly." That apology, honest, shaky, and human, softened something in me. I didn't hug her, not yet, but I did smile. "Thank you," I said. "Apology accepted. But I hope this taught you something. Independence isn't about pushing people away. It's about appreciating the people who help you get there." She nodded quickly, wiping her cheeks. "It did. I promise." As she turned to leave, I called after her, "Oh, and Sarah." She paused. "Good luck," I said, smiling. "This time, I actually mean it kindly." She smiled back, a small, humbled smile, and walked out. For the first time in months, I felt peace between us. But deep down, I had a feeling this wasn't the end of the story just yet. 2 weeks after Sarah's visit, I got a call from Mark. His voice sounded lighter than it had in a long time. "Mom," he said, "Sarah and I wanted to invite you over for dinner this weekend. Just us, no drama, no surprises. We'd really like to make things right." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no. I'd just gotten used to the calm. But there was something in his tone, a mixture of hope and sincerity, that made me reconsider. "All right," I said after a moment. "I'll come by Saturday." When the day arrived, I decided to bring something simple, a homemade apple pie. It wasn't meant as a peace offering, it was just me being me. I pulled into their driveway and immediately noticed something different. The yard was tidy, the porch had been repainted, and even though the furniture inside looked mismatched and new, it felt theirs. Sarah opened the door with a warm smile. "Hi, Linda. Come in," she said cheerfully, and for once, it didn't sound forced. Inside, the table was set beautifully, candles, real plates, and a simple meal that smelled wonderful. I couldn't help but notice the folding chairs and cheap dining table where my old furniture used to be, but instead of feeling smug, I felt proud. They were learning to build their own home, even if it wasn't perfect. Mark gave me a hug. "It means a lot that you came, Mom." "Well," I said with a soft chuckle, "I had to see if Sarah's cooking could hold up without my roast beef recipe." Sarah laughed nervously but playfully. "It's edible, I promise." As we sat down to eat, something shifted. The tension that used to hang in the air was gone. We talked about work, their dog, even some old family memories that made us all laugh. For the first time in a long while, it felt like a family dinner, not a power struggle. Halfway through the meal, Sarah looked up and said quietly, "Linda, I really meant what I said before. I was wrong to speak to you that way. I took your kindness for granted." I smiled and reached across the table, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "We all make mistakes, dear. What matters is we learn from them." Mark looked relieved, smiling between us. "Finally," he said with a grin, "peace in the family." After dinner, we had my pie for dessert, and Sarah even asked for the recipe, something she'd once said she didn't need. That little gesture meant more than any apology. When I left that night, Sarah walked me to my car. "Thank you for giving me another chance," she said. "I know I have a lot to make up for." I patted her arm. "You've already started, sweetheart. And remember, good luck doesn't mean goodbye. It just means I believe you can do it." As I drove home, I smiled to myself. Maybe sometimes tough love does work. Maybe taking everything back wasn't the end, maybe it was exactly what we all needed to start fresh. The weeks after that dinner were surprisingly peaceful. Sarah started texting me every few days, small things, nothing dramatic. A photo of the dog, a question about a recipe, or a quick, "Hope you're doing well." It wasn't forced or formal this time, it felt genuine, like she actually wanted to stay connected. Mark sounded happier, too. "You know, Mom," he told me one evening over the phone, "ever since that dinner, things have been different. Sarah's calmer. She even said she's starting to understand why you did what you did." That caught me off guard. "Really?" I asked. He chuckled. "Yeah, she called it a humility reset. Said losing everything made her realize how much you gave us, not just things, but your time and effort." I didn't respond right away. Hearing that made my heart soften. It wasn't about furniture or money anymore, it was about respect. Maybe she finally saw it. A few days later, Sarah asked if she could stop by. When she arrived, she carried a small, neatly wrapped box. "I wanted to give you this," she said shyly, handing it over. I opened it carefully. Inside was a framed photo of the three of us from their wedding day. But this time, she had written something on the bottom of the frame in gold ink. "Greater than, thank you for everything you gave, and for teaching us what truly matters." I stared at it for a long moment, my throat tightening. "Sarah, this is beautiful.